We're an island nation, drawn to the sea that surrounds us. A playground for some. For others, it's where they make their living. But the sea's unpredictable.
Things can go wrong in seconds.
When you're out in the boat, every minute counts.
There to save our lives is a volunteer army of over 5,000 ordinary people, ready to leave their jobs, their families, and race to our rescue.
When the pager goes off, your body's full of adrenaline.
Okay guys, go, go, go.
There's potentially a family out there with somebody missing.
Okay.
If it hadn't been for them, I wouldn't be here today.
We'll get you out of here.
They definitely saved my life.
Yep.
Equipped with their own cameras, the crews give us a unique insight into every call-out.
Hey, grab a hand.
As only they see it.
You're doing really, really well, buddy. Guys, we need to get him in. Get him in, get him in.
For those who risk their lives, it has become a way of life.
To know that you've helped save a life.
Let's get you in.
It's such an awesome feeling.
Hold on!
On the southwest coast of Wales, overlooking the Bristol Channel, lies the small resort town of Porthcawl.
Porthcawl is a seaside town blessed with beautiful countryside, fantastic beaches.
Very quiet in the winter and absolutely mayhem in the summer.
It's a place that I think everyone enjoys. No one ever, as far as I'm aware, leaves feeling like they haven't had a good time in Porthcawl. It's a very relaxing place to be until the pages go off.
For over 160 years, these waters have been watched over by Porthcawl's lifeboat station. The crew here deal with around 70 call-outs a year, many of them related to the powerful tides and strong currents along this stretch of coast.
It's pretty dangerous around here. 1 minute, you could be in 2 foot of water, and within 10 minutes, the tides come in and you've got the current sweep you out to sea.
People get caught out by the tide simply because they can't see it. There might be areas where there'll be an undercurrent. There might be areas where there'll be an eddy. There might be areas where it'll quite simply drag you out.
A chilly, overcast afternoon in October. Multiple calls have come in about a person in the water at the mouth of the River Ogmore.
I just finished a pretty busy service at the chip shop when the pager sounded. I dropped my apron and headed straight to the lifeboat station.
When we get a call out that there's a person in the water, it goes from, a 5 to a 10 immediately.
As soon as we heard there was a person in the water, it was go, go, go.
Chop, into the water quick. Okay guys, better line, go. Come on.
Within 4 minutes, the crew's fastest boat, the Atlantic 85, is on its way to the mouth of the Ogmore, a wide estuary 4 miles south of Porthcawl, with notoriously strong currents.
Okay guys, there's a person in the water in all dark clothing. They've had multiple reports, they haven't finished the back out.
In the forefront of our minds, that every second it takes for us to get there is a second that person is fighting. Although our lifeboats are quick, you just want them to go that bit quicker. And a second can mean the difference between life and death.
Although the tide is coming in, the concern is that the powerful currents here could be dragging the casualty out to sea. As the crew arrive on scene, they start scanning the river mouth.
We were probably 50 or 60 metres away, and Harrod noticed members of the public on the beach.
There was a lot of people around someone lying on the floor.
We're doing CPR, we're doing CPR, guys. There.
With people on the beach performing chest compressions, it's clear that the casualty is in a critical condition.
I remember looking over my shoulder at the guys and making a split-second decision.
Hold on, we're going on the beach, okay?
We decided that a beach landing was the best way to get there as quickly as possible, which would have saved us from having to swim to shore as well.
Okay guys, go, go, go.
Time is of the essence, and we don't have time.
Milford Coast Guard, Porthcawl Lifeboat immediate.
It just turned into a very intense moment.
Your body's full of adrenaline, especially when you come to the situation that we were in.
Not
chest compression, no breath, no pulse.
The bystanders tell the crew that the casualty has been dragged lifeless from the water.
beach landing, person, not conscious, not breathing, mouth of the individual. Right, okay, who saw him go in? How long was he in the water for?
We lost sight of him. 3-4 minutes, way too long.
Yeah.
When we reached him, he was face down in the water and completely unresponsive. And we rolled him over, and I remember taking one look at him and thinking, we haven't reached him in time, we were too late. Someone checked for a pulse and whether he was breathing, but he was showing no signs, so we started CPR straight away.
It was difficult to see the appearance of the casualty. There was no signs of life. Every time that you put any pressure on his chest, there was water coming from his mouth. There was no movement, there was nothing.
Paramedics are on their way. In the meantime, trained nurse Ankara takes over the casualty care.
Right, folks, thank you very much for your help. If anybody witnessed it, please don't leave. Just go up the beach and we'll find someone to chat to you.
Having the medical background does bring pressure, I think. A lot of it is thinking, okay, it's over to you now, you need to do it.
Okay, let's get some rhythm going, okay?
This is the first time I'd ever performed CPR on a human. I was done training previously. This is the first time having to do it in real life and in a real situation. It was quite intimidating. We're fighting for this guy's life.
He was blue, cold to touch, with his eyes wide open. Knowing that there's an ambulance on the way is great, but we need them now.
I wasn't expecting any chance of survival. I thought we were just going to continue CPR until the ambulance crew came to declare that he was no longer alive.
It's quite surreal watching something like that happen in front of you. You never think that you're ever going to see something like that happen. And here it was right in front of me.
I was thinking a lot of this gentleman's family, thinking this could be my dad. And it does hit home when it's things like that. And you only want to do what's best for that person.
Sir? Sir, can you hear me?
Laying eyes on the casualty really didn't fill me with any hope at all. I thought we were too late and we'd lost him. And then all of a sudden, he took a breath.
Hello, buddy, you okay? Can you hear us? Blink if you can hear us, mate.
I'm sure I've read somewhere that the first sense that you get back is your sense of hearing.
You're doing really, really well, buddy. Take some nice deep breaths.
I know what I was trying to do. I was willing for him to get better. And I was verbalising that, essentially.
That's better. Right, he's got water in it. Roll him on his side.
We know he's not out of the woods, but we've got something. Something to hold on to. Something to work with.
Okay, mate. Outside, buddy. That's it, well done, B. Come on, buddy.
So his breathing is very shallow, it's very slow, but he now has a chance at life.
Yes.
Okay, you take the head, I got this arm here.
Where are we going to?
Okay, we're going to go onto that pattern there.
Now, the best thing forward is for this casualty to get to hospital as soon as possible.
Okay, everybody ready? Brace, left, move.
With the tide coming in, the casualty is moved further up the beach, ready to be transferred to the paramedics now on scene.
I noticed that he had a wallet, and it's really vital information that a wallet can hold.
Michael Hall.
Okay.
now we knew his name. This person had a life, had a name, had a being. Made it quite personal then, and I think at the time quite emotional.
It's just absolute relief. The paramedics arrived and assessed him and got him onto the stretcher.
We suspect his name to be Mr. Michael Hall.
I remember looking at the crew and each and every one of them being exhausted and almost shell-shocked.
Welcome back.
By what we'd just been through in the last 20 minutes or so.
You all right? Napkin.
I've never done that before, ever.
What's it all about?
As soon as those doors closed, took a big sigh of relief, knowing that we've done as best as we can. We obviously didn't know whether he was going to survive the journey, let alone in hospital.
Thanks, guys.
The casualty is rushed to the intensive care unit at the Princess of Wales Hospital in Bridgend, where he's placed into an induced coma.
I felt a relief, but then I also felt very emotional. I had a tear or two on the way back. I think I blamed the wind. It was something that always will stay with me. I'll always remember.
I don't have any memory of being swept out to sea. The last thing I recall is going face first into the water. My only thought was, well, that's it. And then everything went black.
Mike had driven to Porthcawl from his home an hour and a half away, in the hope of a good day's fishing.
My wife had gone to see her parents, my daughter had gone to a concert, and my son was away. And I thought, great opportunity to have the day to myself. So I put the tackle in the car and made my way down to Wales. I was feeling quite excited. It was a nice day. And I waded out into water that was no more than 6 or 8 inches deep.
As Mike entered the water, he caught the attention of Ailsa, who'd come down to the Oakmoor with a friend.
He was stood in the middle of the estuary, probably about knee-deep in the water. And it's the kind of thing that you see in passing and you don't really think much about.
When you're fishing, you can never tell whether or not you're going to catch anything. It's part of the luck of the draw. But I was hopeful. I'd planned to be there when the tide was coming in. Often that's the best time to go fishing. But I'd not been there before, so I wasn't sure of that.
Mike was unaware that the fast-flowing river and the incoming tide would make that spot particularly dangerous.
I think it can lull people into a false sense of security, that you can see the beach on the other side and you think, that's not that deep, I could easily get across there. But on this particular day, the water was flowing very fast, it was very high.
The tide was now surging in around Mike, rising over 3 centimetres every minute.
The water had increased in depth and had suddenly become much more powerful. And I thought, I've really got to do something about this now because I'm not going to get back to the beach if I don't act fast.
But carrying heavy fishing gear and wearing thick waterproofs, Mike struggled to make any headway.
I was using my rod to try and lever myself towards the shore, but the water was getting deeper and deeper, and before I knew it, I was really in trouble. I had started to panic. So I'd taken my jacket off and my rucksack to try and give myself a chance of maybe swimming back to the beach, but the power of the river against me was completely irresistible. There was nothing I could do about it.
As well as the rising tide, after recent heavy rains, the river had swollen, and a wall of water was pushing Mike out to sea.
He was just appearing as a black shape quite far out in the water. As I ran towards the people that were there, I remember shouting to one of them, has anyone rang the Coast Guard?
I was being bashed around by the waves, and I was really being buffeted about. And before I knew it, I was on my hands and knees. The last thing I remember is going face first into the waves, and after that, Everything's a blur.
I felt like I couldn't stand there and watch a man that I saw alive 2 minutes ago not be alive anymore.
Although by now the Coast Guard had been called, there was no time to lose. Ailsa and another bystander entered the water.
I'm a relatively strong swimmer, but the waves were cold, absolutely freezing. And I remember being thrown around all over the place.
After fighting through the waves, Ailsa and the other rescuer managed to reach Mike.
The man next to me said, "He's gone, he's gone." And I remember thinking, we've got to get him out of this water as quickly as we can.
Between them, they managed to drag Mike back to the beach, where they attempted to revive him.
We were still trying CPR and waiting for him to respond. I did think at this stage, is this CPR in vain? Have we lost him? When I remember looking over my shoulder and seeing the lifeboats arrive, and there was a great sense of relief.
Without those members of the public who entered the water and dragged him out, to the several members of the public doing CPR before we arrived, I'm convinced that the outcome wouldn't be what it is today.
It amazes me how many people were involved in the rescue. Almost all of them either just members of the public or volunteers. And all of them are responsible for saving my life. I'm extremely grateful for that.
Good work. Thank you very much. It was the following day we got the news that whilst he was still in an induced coma, things were looking very good, and he was likely to make a full recovery.
And when I heard that, I was very, very happy, yeah, very happy.
It's such an awesome feeling. It's a feeling like no other, to know that you've helped save a life. It's just fantastic.
It makes you think about everything, puts everything in your life into perspective. Didn't realise how special life is and how sacred it is as well.
"24/7, 365 days a year. Lifeboat crews around the UK and Ireland are ready to answer the call. When lives are at stake, every second counts.
And the pages sound. Within 5 minutes, we're thundering out through the harbour walls to go and help someone. Time is of the essence.
On a shout, it can feel like time is your worst enemy. We need to get to this casualty, or we need to get to this sinking vessel. We need to get to this boat that's on fire, and the clock doesn't stop ticking.
When you're out in a boat and you know someone's in the water,
Come on in, let's get you in.
it can go downhill quickly.
As soon as that boat hits the water, I want the best speed that we can.
ETA 10.
Straight off the bat.
Here.
There's always a deadline to get there to save them.
Come on, come on.
They call us because it's an emergency. Every second will count.
On the northwest coast of England, 5 miles south of Blackpool, lies the town of Lytham St Anne's.
Lytham St Anne's is quite a relaxed place. It's a typical seaside town. It's not big and brash like Blackpool. It's a little bit of slower pace of life.
We've got a massive beach. You almost have a football field to yourself. The beach is that big. Because the tide goes so far out here, there isn't many other places in the UK where the low tide will be 2 miles from the harbour wall.
As well as these dramatic tides, the lifeboat crew at Lytham St Anne's have to contend with the volatile weather that can sweep in across the Irish Sea.
In the patch that we cover, the biggest dangers is the variety of conditions and how quickly they can change.
You can normally see bits of weather rolling in, but we've had quite a few recent squalls that have come through, which can go from a lovely sunny day to howling a gale, rain, thunder, lightning, all within a few minutes.
Situations can change really, really quickly, and we get some quite nasty storms and squalls coming in. We get the spin-off from the hurricanes coming across the Atlantic from America. There's not really a lot protecting us on this coast.
And it was a violent storm that brought about the greatest loss of life in the RNLI's 200-year history. On the evening of December the 9th, 1886, the Mexico, a German cargo ship, was driven aground here.
On a day like today, where the sun's shining, you can't believe how bad it can be when a gale is coming in.
David Forshaw, a lifeboat volunteer here for nearly 40 years, knows the perils of this coastline all too well.
We're here on the north side of the Ribble estuary. The accident happened on the south side, off Southport, which is over there.
Despite the atrocious conditions, lifeboats from Lytham, St Anne's and Southport launched, and the crews, made up of local fishermen, rowed through the raging storm towards the Mexico.
So this is a similar size of lifeboat to the one used on that night. It's an open rowing lifeboat, no motors, no radio, but it was state-of-the-art for the time.
It was open. There was no cover. There was no protection for them.
Those crews were just incredible in the courage that they had to go to sea in such conditions.
After 2.5 hours battling the 8 miles through the waves, the Lytham lifeboat managed to reach the wreck and rescue the 12 men on board. But the other lifeboats were overwhelmed by the stormy seas and gale force winds. Of their 29 crew, only 2 survived.
27 lives were lost. Can't even put that into perspective if that happened today. And families effectively wiped out. Some families losing multiple members. Everyone is touched by something like that.
Such was the public outpouring of grief following the tragedy, that for the first time ever, street collections were started to support the bereaved families and fund the lifeboats, a tradition that continues to this day.
The sea can be quite evil at times, that's the nearest you can say, and it's a reminder to be very careful.
A cold October morning, another sudden and vicious storm is making its way across the Irish Sea.
It was a day where you didn't really want to open the curtains in the morning, crank up the heat, and yeah, a day to be in the house.
The wind blew up, and it was just like a howling gale just blew up, and I was like, gotta hope there's nobody out in that today. I was like, no, there won't be.
A call has come in from a yacht that is caught up in a squall. With his fellow crew member injured, its skipper is unable to control the vessel on his own. It's now at the mercy of the sea.
The squalls are sudden. It's a small sort of storm cell that just comes out of nowhere. A huge amount of rain, strong winds, comes and hits hard and then passes through, and everything returns back to normal.
To get to the point of calling for help, they were in a bad place and it was going to be serious. It was not a surprise that someone out in those conditions needed help.
Lytham St Anne's all-weather Shannon-class lifeboat is launched and makes best speed towards the yacht's last reported position, 8 miles west of the station.
The sea state was rough. Visibility was extremely poor, so we're launching into some pretty rough seas.
The best way I could describe this, you're driving along in your car at 40 miles an hour and it's raining and you decide to stick your head out the sunroof. It is harsh.
And you're constantly being tossed around, pitched and rolled all over the place. And 1 minute you can be, you know, looking ahead, the next minute you'd be looking up, and then the next minute you're looking down. It's pretty intense stuff.
As the crew arrive on scene, the yacht is only 1.5 miles offshore. The gale force winds are pushing it towards the coast, and it's now in grave danger of running aground.
I looked at it and thought, oh my God, how are we gonna deal with this one? He was that close to the shoreline, he was that close to the breaking surf.
Right, she's getting a fender.
Once we came alongside the casualty, we probably only had about 10 minutes before they would have got washed up towards the beach at Blackpool.
I remember looking at it and thinking, we've got one chance and one chance only.
With one crew member out of action and the skipper unable to control the yacht single-handedly, it's now drifting helplessly towards the shore at Blackpool.
Take that out.
The only solution is to transfer a crew member across to establish a tow, so the lifeboat can pull the yacht away from danger. But it's a highly risky maneuver and a real test of Coxswain Andrews' skill.
Transferring between vessels at sea is one of the most dangerous things that you can do. The boats move unexpectedly. The consequence there is someone being crushed between the two vessels. People have lost their life in it, so it's something that we try to avoid.
But with the yacht drifting closer to land by the minute, the crew are left with no choice.
I need somebody up with me to steady me. Will do. I'll come with you.
Andy, a crew member for 23 years, puts himself forward.
And I think part of me, I wanted to do it because I felt happier putting myself at risk doing that than letting one of the other crew do it.
Yeah, we're just going to throw bag out. We're ready when you are, Andrew. Yeah, start coming. Okay, it's going to start coming in. Do you want to do that and I'll hold on to Andy? Yeah. All right for now. Dolby want to get over the rail.
Yeah.
We started to close our distance, coming up parallel. I do remember just for a split second as we were about to come in, I thought, what if I do something wrong? There really was multiple lives at risk with what we were about to do.
He's letting it up.
And it was that split second timing that, right, I'm going now because this is my one chance. If I don't take this chance, we've got to pull back away and then we're losing time.
You going? He's on! He's on! Let's get these fenders off, Mike, and we'll get that tow ready to go.
Having him get across to the boat was a good feeling. He was across, he was safe. But we were straight on to what we needed to do next. There was no pats on the back.
The yacht is still drifting towards land, so the crew must quickly secure a tow line.
Mike, I'll manage this. Mike can manage that. You want to do the throw, yeah?
Setting up a tow and establishing it in those conditions is really tricky.
Just everybody watch out for each other's feet. Yeah.
Because you're moving around, the casualty boat's moving around, and you want to get that line through to them first time while also in 40-mile-an-hour winds.
We're ready.
It was critical to get that line across in the first shot. It's probably only a few minutes, but those few minutes were really critical.
Good shot.
It needed to be a great throw, it was. Andy had the tow line in his hands.
Stayed up!
With the tow established, the yacht is finally under control. The decision is made to take it to the nearest marina at Fleetwood, 10 miles away.
Once we'd got the yacht towards Fleetwood, into calm waters, there is a sense of relief, but also a sense of achievement. But we still obviously need to finish the job and then also make our way home as well.
As the lifeboat and yacht are now making slow but steady progress, Andy is able to check on the casualties.
I met the skipper. He was quite clearly shaken up. There was no serious injuries. We were both relieved that we'd come to get them. And the skipper said as soon as I saw that lifeboat coming over the sea, he said, I knew we were saved.
I love it. I love it. What else were you doing on a Friday?
It takes nearly 2 hours to make it to Fleetwood, where the yacht and the 2 casualties are given a safe haven.
If we'd got there later, that yacht would have gone into the surf line. The chances of it breaking up, I'm almost certain. The chances of the crew becoming trapped, almost certain. Chances of loss of life, almost certain.
If you ask the lifeboat crew why they do it, they won't be able to tell you why they do it. They'll just say, it's what we do, it's what I do.
Just over 200 miles south of Lytham, on Dorset's Jurassic coast, lies the harbour town of Poole.
I personally think Poole is a great part of the world. You've got great views, great beaches. It's very good for paddleboarding, kayaking, learning to kite surf.
Particularly in the summer, I'd say Poole and Poole Bay are really, really busy with people using the beaches all the way from sort of Studland, Old Harry's area, right down towards Bournemouth and Boscombe.
The waters within Poole Harbour are extremely busy with boats coming in and out, lots of visiting sailors. We've got the quay with the harbour side, and plus we've got the ferries coming in and out. There's lots of day trippers going over to Brownsea.
Poole Lifeboat Station has a state-of-the-art boathouse situated on the bustling quayside. By day, this area is awash with shoppers and sightseers.
During the summer, they close the quay to cars, and it becomes a location for events, which attracts lots of people to come and use the bars, restaurants, and just enjoy themselves.
After dark, Poole Quay is a hot spot for nightlife.
Nightlife on Poole Quay, there's pubs there, there's a couple of small clubs, so there's always people there drinking or having fun.
Southern Coast Guard, this is Poole Lifeboat, that's us launched over. Yeah, this is Poole Quay, so you've got sort of the well-known pubs that have been here for quite a long time, so you've got like the Johnny Sailor and Lord Nelson. But yeah, the quay's normally quite busy in the summer, so there's always something going on if you wander down the quay.
With fierce tides and strong currents around the harbour, the Poole crew know the dangers here all too well.
Definitely, there's some very dark pockets of the harbour once you're away from the shoreline. Sort of round towards Brownsea Islands and round the back of the islands is pretty dark. Sometimes it can be a bit eerie if it's a still night, quite quiet. It makes it a bit easier if you're listening for somebody maybe shouting for help, but certainly your senses are heightened.
We do get the odd person who comes out of a pub who's had a few beers, jump in the quay, go for a swim.
And at the time, it seems to them as a good idea, but unfortunately, all too often, it doesn't end quite so well.
Late July, Friday night, 2:30 a.m. An urgent call comes in about a person in the water near the quayside on Poole Harbour.
There's something different being woken up by a pager than just being woken up by your alarm clock.
So when the page goes off, it does make you jump because you're not expecting it. When you're in your deepest sleep, rolling over, trying to figure out what that funny noise is.
I'm thinking, okay, I'm coming. Just give me a minute to open my eyes and get dressed.
As the crew arrive at the station, they're told to prepare for an immediate launch.
An immediate launch, life is in danger, basically. But the adrenaline goes more at that time in the morning.
In July, the water can still be pretty cold. So when a person's in the water, every second counts. To locate them and get them out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
11 minutes after being paged, the station's Atlantic 85 and D-class lifeboats are both launched.
Get a searchlight on there, Will. Yeah.
Although the initial information is unclear, the casualty is reported to be in the water somewhere in Poole Quay, within just a few hundred metres of the station.
particularly if it's late at night, where people have chosen to enter the water. That's usually driven by drugs or alcohol, which is always a concern because we want to be able to get to them before there's a bad ending.
Solent Coast Guard, Solent Coast Guard. Pool lifeboat, channel 0.
And jumping into the water might give you cold water shock, and if you've been drinking as well, your ability to be able to swim or get out of the water might be limited.
But without an exact location for the casualty, the crew must search the entire length of the 400-metre quay.
We knew he was along the quay somewhere. We got told he was near some pleasure boats. There's a lot of pleasure boats along the quay.
At night when you're searching, it takes a while for your eyes to adjust. Even a buoy on the water could be ahead, so you have to be really switched on.
I was going to speak to the harbour and see if they've got anything on CCTV as well, mate.
We were quite quiet on the boat, just in case we could hear anything. We wanted to be able to hear any shouts.
Solent Coast Guard, currently no obvious signs of either of the casualty.
But after an initial search of the quay without success, more information comes in from a bystander.
So we had an update on the radio say that he was near the Sea Music statue, of which there was a white city cruiser boat there.
Cancel that. Casualty visible on scene at this time. Yep.
6 minutes after launching, the crew are flagged down by a person on the quayside.
We've got one or two there, then.
So he waved us down and he indicated that the casualty was sort of down the side of one of the ferry boats.
How many in the water? Okay, one sat on the quayside, wooden in the water.
After seeing him fall in the water, the first informant has helped to drag the casualty to the quayside.
I spoke to the bystander that had jumped in. He was wet. He only had a pair of boxer shorts on. He told me that there had been some sort of kerfuffle. The guy ended up in the water and all of his friends had run away.
Are you all right, mate? Yeah?
The casualty is now hanging onto a thin ridge in the narrow gap between the ferry boat and the quayside.
Stay there, don't move. Stay there. Oh my God,
As soon as we spoke to the individuals, it became fairly apparent they're both intoxicated.
Although the casualty is conscious, to assess his condition, the crew have to work out a way to reach him.
Okay, mate, that's all right. We're going to get a few of us so that we can get plenty of us to give you a lift up here, then standing on there and a lift across.
He's trapped, so 2 crew on board. We're going to try and get him up onto the shore side.
The only way to get to the casualty is for JK and Will to strap themselves to the ferry's railing and shimmy across to him.
He was probably 1.5 meters up to the side of the boat, so it was a bit of a height to climb. Was he stuck? I'd say because of the level of his intoxication, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, right, this is absurd. Right.
With the casualty clearly under the influence, the concern now is that he could slip off the narrow ledge he's clinging to.
If he falls unconscious, he could be crushed between the boats. We could be at risk, which is why we attached to the boat in the way that we did.
Myself and the other crew member were ashore on the quayside.
What we're going to do is we're going to get you to climb across. All right?
What do you want me to do?
Foot across. You ready?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Keep hold.
Okay, you happy there? No, it's fine. Just...
We're going to turn him round, bring him to there.
We're going to go back the other way to the ladder that way, all right?
Okay.
Careful.
1 minute, mate. You just keep hold a second.
The crew managed to maneuver the casualty onto the side of the ferry, but he's not yet out of danger.
Big step around that road, mate.
He was fairly cold to the touch. It was a bit of wind chill. He was wet. He was very pale.
Keep shuffling along this way, mate. Keep hold of this rail.
Although it's unclear how long the casualty had been in the water, hypothermia is a real concern.
So once he's out of the water, he may seem fine. However, things can change rapidly. In the time I've been on the crew, I have seen people who've started off warm and become hypothermic. It's quite a scary sight.
There we go. Step around that rope a bit.
As JK and Will carefully guide the casualty along the ledge.
And then our final hurdle is going to be this ladder, mate.
The man who pulled him from the water sheds new light on how he came to be in this predicament.
Dave, just while they're dealing with that, this gentleman's nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
He's just walking along. He stood up there.
Yeah.
And he's jumped and smacked his head.
By no means, I just felt it was like he thought he stepped from there to there.
Apologies, mate, boy. Sorry.
So basically, yeah,
So he stepped from there and he smacked his head.
Cool. Can you make sure they're aware of that? Okay, big step across with your foot. That's it.
With the casualty safely on the quayside, the crew need to assess him for a possible head injury.
So just chuck your torch on, see if you can see any. We're just going to have a bit of a look around your head, mate.
Can you remember hitting your head at all, mate?
No, not at all. Okay, that's it.
Head injuries can be a concern because they can present very differently. It's difficult to measure whether the intoxication is what's leading to the difficulty in communication or whether it could be impacted to the head injury.
Like, what's your home address? Do you know your home address?
Yes.
What's your home address?
Absolutely. My name's What's the name of this place?
Are you handworthy? Are you Paul?
Yeah.
Was there anyone else with you?
Yeah. Yes, loads.
He's stumbling around, his slow speech, we were taking that very seriously.
So what was the reason for you getting onto the?
I have no idea. Because somebody told me that I couldn't.
Okay.
Right,
So
okay.
it was more of a challenge then, rather.
Yeah, it was a challenge.
Are your friends still around? Or?
I have no idea.
Like to think if ever I was in a situation that I was in peril or danger, that my mates would probably stick around to try and help. But yeah, the bystander definitely had a positive impact on him getting out of the water.
I think he was lucky that the passerby noticed there was a problem and then called 999 and asked for help.
Having gathered as much information as they can, and with paramedics now on scene, the crew hand over the casualty into their care.
It was definitely good to release him across to the ambulance service. We knew that he was going into the best care that he could get. They could find out any further injuries that we couldn't see.
Cool. We'll catch you later.
The casualty is taken to hospital to be assessed for his injuries. At 3 a.m, the crew head back to station.
A little while later, after the shout, the casualty did contact the station and say thank you to us all for helping him. It was a relief to find that he was actually all right, and he was extremely grateful.
I think he'd had a nice night, and unfortunately he'd made a decision to go for a bit of a jump off the quayside and into the water. In hindsight, I think he probably regrets that decision. Yeah, it's always just nice to help somebody in their time of need.
Just over 60 miles away, on the English side of the Severn estuary, lies the town of Portishead.
Portishead on a good day is a beautiful place. It's lovely to live on the coast, you know, lots of nice walks, lots of nice restaurants, lots of nice cafes and pubs. Really lovely family place.
The channel here is really busy. It's the closest part of the British coastline where you can see big shipping going towards a port. So we get big ships, we get smaller ships, large sailing yachts, small sailing yachts, dinghies. We get the whole myriad of everything.
A lifeboat station has been watching over this stretch of the Bristol Channel for over 50 years. With the second highest tidal range in the world, almost every shout is time critical.
We get such a mix of shouts at Portishead. Swimmers in distress, large vessels in distress, people stuck in the mud. Every shout we go on, The tide is the major factor that we are going to have to deal with.
When we got the tide at its highest and its lowest, those can be some really dramatic changes. So if you're going to be anywhere near the water, you've got to have your wits about you.
A bright but windy morning in early June. The Coast Guard receive a distress call from a barge with engine failure in the Bristol Channel. The tide is on the flood and the vessel is drifting at speed up the estuary.
The volume of water that needs to come in is so vast that it's rushing up the channel. So if you are totally uncontrollable, you're going to be dragged a long way in that huge surge of water. So we needed to get to that vessel in quick time.
Immediately I knew that if they were going down the channel, then their biggest concern that they had was the bridges. You know, that's a big barge and it's not going to play well with the bridges.
15 minutes after the pagers sounded, the crew launched their Atlantic 85 and head towards the barge's reported position near the Prince of Wales Bridge, which spans the estuary.
The conditions were quite challenging that day. We had an incoming tide and sea was quite choppy and confused. I couldn't see the vessel from where we were. There's 5 miles of water between us and them. We didn't know how far it was from the bridge. We didn't know whether it hit the bridge. We didn't really know what we were dealing with. We just needed to get there as quickly as we possibly could.
As well as being a hazard to other vessels, there's a real risk that the out-of-control barge could collide with one of the bridge's concrete supports.
Worst case scenario, vessel could break up, in which case you've got possibility of people going in the water. Yeah, things get an awful lot more serious.
20 minutes after launching, the crew arrive on scene, less than half a mile from the bridge.
As we got close, we could see a vessel drifting sideways up the channel.
It's apparent that this is a heavy, heavy vessel, over twice the length of the lifeboat, and it's 30 tons in weight.
Going off cup.
The stricken vessel is an old Dutch barge that's been converted into a houseboat. On board are the owner and 3 friends.
I think they'd been sort of panicking a bit.
They're not anchored. You're not anchored at the moment.
The skipper had been down in the engine room trying to get things started again. He was feeling quite seasick.
As soon as the engine fell, we had no power, no manoeuvring. The way we were drifting, we'd gone across the wind, blowing on the side of the boat, and that was its most uncomfortable. You know, I started feeling quite seasick fairly quickly and green in the gills.
Earlier that day, Roger and his friends had set off up the Severn estuary to take the barge for maintenance.
We were probably about 25 minutes into the journey when I heard the slightest hesitation in the engine, and I thought, and then it happened quite quickly again, and Roger looked at me and said, "Did you hear that?"
And then it did it again. You knew something had changed, and we said, don't like the sound of that. We weren't going to press on and just hope it would sort itself out. We decided to turn around and head back the other way. And it was kind of on making the turn that the engine failed altogether.
With a stalled engine, the barge was now at the mercy of the fast flooding tide.
I immediately felt worried and anxious and a bit scared, probably. You know, we were just drifting at that point, drifting with the tide. We realised it was too deep to put the anchor down. It was about 70 metres. It wouldn't have been long enough.
I was looking at the bridge, getting ever closer, and I estimated that we probably only had about 15 minutes before hitting a concrete structure much, much, much bigger than us that could either damage the boat to an extent where it might take on water or, probably worse, get trapped and then have some kind of rolling effect because of the strength of the tide going up.
With Roger out of action and the barge being swept towards the Prince of Wales Bridge, Lawrence radioed the Coast Guard. But although the Portishead crew are now on scene, they still have a job on their hands.
biggest concern is how do we make a difference to a very large steel-hulled barge? How do we get control of that situation?
Well, what have you got at the front, Skip?
There's a
big bollard. Yeah.
bollard like this one.
With the barge now just a few hundred meters from the bridge, the crew need to attach a tow line to prevent a collision.
So it was decided that Ian would go on board the boat. We're putting someone on board because we know we've then got complete control of the situation.
We passed the tow line to Ian to tie off onto the casualty vessel.
Get it on, mate. Let's get it on that one.
Actually, I realised then that it was probably a little bit rougher than we thought. We were much bigger than the lifeboat, and the lifeboat was moving around a lot compared with us.
Well, you want a bridle at the front?
No, there's no front. We're just going to stem the tide.
Yeah, okay.
One of their crew members came on board with us to check we were all okay. He was very good at keeping everyone calm.
A bridle at both sides.
I think they were kind of worried in the position they were in. I did notice that there was quite a lot of looking over the shoulder. They weren't the only ones. I was very conscious that there is a bridge.
Pulling such a large vessel to safety is beyond the Atlantic 85's capabilities. So the Coast Guard has requested the help of a local dredger, the Graham Robertson, as well as the all-weather lifeboat from nearby Barry Dock.
Have you got a load of line, yeah? Because I'm just going to come out of it. One at short toe, mate.
We could see the Graham Robertson was a couple of minutes away, so we were just trying to stop them drifting towards the bridge until a bigger vessel can turn up and take the tow.
Say, mate.
Come in, mate.
Yeah.
Come in. Come in. Line is released. Line is up.
Okay, you're on.
It was quite obvious as soon as strain came on that line, the weight of the barge.
Ladder clear. You are ladder clear.
Because it literally stopped the lifeboat dead in the water.
Mate, you happy with that amount of line? Did you think stay here? Get it out a bit more.
Okay. Using a lot of power, we managed to get it turned into the tide and started to try and, well, we thought we'd just be able to hold position.
1.1 knots, I got. What's up, mate? They're going to be lock it off.
Yeah.
After 10 minutes of straining against the tide, help appears in the form of the Port of Bristol dredger, the Graham Robertson.
Lifeboat mobile, can you go to the bow, please, and get ready to release the line over?
Order, stand by.
So when the Graham Robertson arrived, it was a welcome sight. It's a big dredging vessel, which is used for multi-purposes around the port.
It's massive. It completely dwarfed us and the casualty vessel.
It looks a bit like something out of Mad Max because it's got a big set of teeth on the back.
Within minutes, the dredger establishes a tow and begins the journey back towards Portishead Marina.
So if you are happy to tow up towards Portishead Marina.
Once they got the line on the boat, we were towed into a less bouncy position. So I quickly found myself feeling much better.
There is always a look of relief on people's faces when they see the yellow suit come bounding over the horizon. The relief that help is there. The situation we're in is now going to get better.
I probably did have a few dark thoughts. The sense of being in danger, it's not a nice set of feelings.
So if no one had got to their assistance, going up through the chutes underneath the bridge would have been very, very hair-raising. Who's to know what would happen? A capsize is not beyond the realms of what could have happened.
Affirmative, go 6-7 on main set, over.
They're an amazing team of people. You know, they said all the right things. Because I felt a complete and utter idiot for having got into this situation. I've not had cause to have anything to do with them in the past, and in the nicest possible way. I don't really want to have anything to do with them in the future either.
On a shout like that, it's a sense of achievement because that is a big vessel. To take it from where it was and bring it back, you've got 4 casualties on board, everybody's fit and healthy, and there's no damage to the vessel. It makes for a great day.
2.5 hours after launching, and with the barge safely back in the marina, the Portishead crew returned to station.
Absolutely felt like a job well done, that shout. It was a really good outcome. Could have been a lot worse, but you know, we had a great crew that day, really good assistance from the other assets. It all turned out really well.
In Porthcawl, Mike is back at the Ogmore estuary, where he so nearly drowned.
Well, we're very close to the spot that I was dragged out of the water, which is just around the corner. This is quite remarkable, really.
And although he still enjoys fishing, Mike's now more aware of his surroundings.
I guess I'm just a bit more cautious than I was before. If I'd have been a bit more cautious in the first place, it wouldn't have happened. I wear a life jacket, really now, because I see the sense in it. I should have worn it on the day. It does help to get a bit closer to the fish, but I won't be going any further out. I'm amazed by how lucky I was on the day. Yes, you could say I was unlucky to have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, but if all the other parts hadn't fallen into place, I wouldn't be here now. The standing joke is that I'm using up my 9 lives. I mean, the trouble is we don't know which one we're on, and it's because nobody started counting.
And in Portishead, after his barge broke down on the Severn estuary, Roger has been running some repairs with a view to selling up.
Shall we start her up? Look at that, first time.
Well, that's a sweet noise.
I do still love the sea, but since the incident, we haven't been back out on the boat. I've actually just been taking up dinghy sailing, so smaller boats, not bigger ones. There are very few occasions in my life where I've been in a position where I have been helpless. Having a group of people who are prepared to put their lives on the line to come and get us out of a pickle, you just have an overwhelming sense of gratitude for what they've done, really.
For 1 second, the water could be 6 metres under him, then it could be 20 metres under him.
In that sort of conditions, we're sort of hoping more than anything. You go vertical, and then you've got the waves come at broadside on.
The smoke became unbearable, and the engine had expired. And I'm thinking, yeah, we could be in a bit of trouble here. Excuse me.